Great. Okay, bonsoir, guten Abend, boa noite, there is a Brazilian, buenas noches, good evening. Did I do them all? Those are the only ones I know. I don't know Hindi and all the forms of Chinese we have in here, but really want to welcome you for this evening. First of all, we really, really appreciate the incredible hosting that Pillsbury does, not only tonight, but for us and for many of the groups that are together, so thank you. And for Teresa Fernando, who helped us with the wine, and Julia Masaki, who puts the event together. A big thank you. So I hope they can hear that. I really appreciate it. The other thing I wanted to do is introduce the groups that are co-hosting. We, several years ago, had the idea of having a dinner together, and all the presidents of the different groups, and then we said, why don't we do events that are multicultural, because this is Silicon Valley. So we have, where is CSPA? Scott, is he here? He's probably out there gabbing away. So CSPA, anyone here from CSPA inside? Raise your hand. Okay, sorry, Chinese Software Professionals Association. And then we have Hispanic Net, Margarita Kiwis, I don't know where she is, outside gabbing as well. Sanjay Waj is right next to me. He's the president of SIPA, and that stands for?
Silicon Valley Indian Professional Association.
There we go. And who else did I miss? Gava, where's Caroline? Caroline is back there. She's incredible. And you can imagine, I'm the president of Silicon French. Elahian, who knows where he is? We're dealing with the French after all. Oh my God. Was the founder of, well, just to let you know a little story, half an hour before I was supposed to leave almost, I got an email saying, oops, from a French guy, we can't deliver the wine. You don't have a wine license. So he said, well, you know, too bad, you should have known. I had asked, please call me. He emailed me. I came from San Francisco, saw it, good old Trader Joe's. So, I also forgot...
Angelika,
oui?
I have to say something. Because when I met Angelika 8 years ago, she told me, I really want to write a book. And that's how we decided to start l'Executive Club, which is a group of French-speaking executives in the Silicon Valley. So she had the dream already 8 years ago. And today's a realization of a dream. So congratulations, because very few people can make a dream a reality, and you're one of these people.
What I did want to say, really, all of this is really based on the generosity of all my friends around here. And, yes?
There are several people outside. Can we just have people move in so that everybody can just here?
Yeah? Fine.
One seat here, two seats here.
Tom is the boss, so if he says yes, it works. So this evening is really about collaboration among all of us.
Anybody who wants to sit on our laps, we are happy to welcome.
Okay, so this is a real Silicon Valley event. How many Indians are here? Raise your hand. How many Chinese, Taiwanese, Singaporeans, Hong Kongese, whatever at all? Under one. How many French? Germans? Brazilians? I know I saw one. Anyone else from another country? Serbian, my daughter-in-law. Yes? Americans, whoops. Thank you for pointing that out. How many of you have a startup? Oui. Yes. Not only that, it's even a worse sin. No, I also want to introduce my co-author of the other book that I wrote, Communicating the American Way, Elisabetta Ghizzini. She's Italian. So it was a double sin. Okay, anyone else I forgot? Anyone else? Someone from Britain? Okay. Ireland? Patrick? Anyone else? Iran, great. Iran, Kamran represents that. And yes? Thailand. Finland, wow. Russia. Absolutely. Czech Republic. God, that's incredible. I mean, this really is the Silicon Valley. You know? You're from another planet, yes. All right. what did I want to say? Okay, so the format tonight is I prepared some questions from the book. Tom will chime in with his usual great sense of humor and will set us all on the right track. I will ask the executives here to give us some interesting stories. I'll prompt them of the ones that at least I know of. Maybe after a question or two on the same subject, if you want to follow up with a question or two, that's fine. But please ask a question. Don't make a statement, so we can move on. Even though I'm the president of a French group, some of my Germanic nature is still in me, so I will cut you off. What I wanted to do was, in a very Californian way, ask Henry and Samba and Guy and Kamran and Eric, which is to, can you imagine that I would talk that way to them in another country? Instead of professeur, docteur, whatever it would be, because they all have incredible titles. I'd like them to introduce themselves and to tell of their biography what they want to. If I read it, we would be here for at least half an hour with all of their accomplishments that they have. So why don't you start, and then I'll start with the questions. Eric, do you want to start?
How much time do we have? Just time myself, 2 minutes, okay. So,
For you.
I guess the short form is that I'm an entrepreneur. I've been here for the last 34 years. And I went to the school next door and started my company shortly after that. And I was fortunate to be here at a time when computer networking was just getting invented. Xerox Sparks, just up the street, was inventing a lot of the technology we use today. So I've been an entrepreneur for pretty much that time. Today, I continue to be an entrepreneur, but I help a new generation of entrepreneurs get their companies started, and I try to coach them into bigger successes and into avoiding the mistakes I made when I was their age. The companies which I had a chance to build and grow include Bridge Communications, 3Com, Palm. These are companies which I led in the front line as CEO. And there are many others which I helped to build indirectly through investments and coaching. And today I do a lot of that for about maybe a third of my time, or maybe half of my time. And the rest of it I teach, and I also do some philanthropic work, and I'm just as busy today as I was a few years ago, but in a different way.
We'll get into the details. He teaches at INSEAD in France. See, I know all these little things because I talk to them.
Ni hao, konbanwa. Sabadun bekhair bashe. No, just I was just getting warmed up. Come on. Now I forgot all of them. My name is Kamran Elahian. I was born in Iran. Came to the United States when I was 18 years old. Started my first company when I was 27, a software company called CAE Systems. The next one was Cirrus Logic. The next one was Momenta. And then I got fired. And
Wait, we need to hear the whole story, not yet.
Okay. And then started Neo Magic Corporation, Planet Web, and then Centillion Communications, and Actalis Networks. And then I went to the dark side and moved to venture capital, with all due respect to the investors in the room. And now, as Eric does, we find the really good entrepreneurs and help them realize their dreams, and try to do a little bit of good on the side also.
Very good. My name is Guy Gecht, CEO of EFI, $620 million revenue last year. This year we'll have to work about twice as much to get the same amount of revenue, I guess, based on the... But let's not get depressed already. So I came from Israel 17 years ago. It's, the short story is that I wanted to play basketball, but when I was very young, I figured out that even an optimistic person like me cannot expect to get anywhere in Israel with basketball, let alone in the world. But I always felt that if I want to do something like basketball, I want to be in the NBA. I want to play with the best, and I want to try to get to the best accomplishment and not staying with the kind of the neighborhood level. And since I figured basketball is not going to work, when I learned in the university, I was a software engineer, and I was 5 years in the army, Israeli army, as an officer. I figured that the equivalent of MBA of software and engineering is the Silicon Valley. And because of people like Eric, Silicon Valley was already doing great, and I knew about that. So I figured I'll come here, and I'm sure I'll get a great job with six-figure salaries, and people waiting for me. They can't do the next thing without me, so I sold everything we had, and me and my wife, and resigned from our job, and arrived here, and nobody waited for us.
But you're close to that six figure.
Yeah, well, a lot closer to zero than six figures, but you know, that was the list of my concerns. But anyway, we'll talk more about immigrants in Silicon Valley, but since then I did a few startups, joined EFI 12 years ago, ran engineering, and then I was selected to replace the CEO a few years ago, and having fun.
Hi, I'm Samba Murthy. I came to this country in 1982 to do my graduate school, like most of the Indians and immigrants do. Started my career with a company called Seek Technology, which is not part of LSI Logic. And we were the first Ethernet chipset company, and reprogrammed memory company in the business started by some Intel folks. And in fact, met Eric many years ago as a young engineer, and worked with a lot of the Xerox Spark people when they went to Ethernet. So that's where I learned most of the stuff I picked up over the years. Fortunate enough to work with people like Eric and watch people like Kamran, being very successful, and the bug bit me. So in '95, I decided that maybe it was time to cut loose and do something on our own. And interesting stories, but I ran into this gentleman right next door. He used to be a customer of mine. We ended up doing our first company together, and we got incredibly lucky with a very successful gigabit Ethernet network processor startup. And we struggled in the early days, but exited quite successful in '99 before the bubble. I spent about a year with a company called Vitesse, which is a public company, and realized I'm not cut out for large companies. So I left and started yet another company. So I'm part of the masochist club of sort, because so I like working on new ideas and maybe working on climbing new mountains, if you will. So I started a second company, as I mentioned, and it's running well, and now I'm looking at several new ideas I'm incubating, working with some other friends I've met over the years, and we're trying to figure out if there is a business we can build again. So.
Okay, I'll take this one. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Henry Wong. I have a confession to make. I'm a 24/7 workaholic, what can I tell you? I was born and raised in Hong Kong. I came to the country in '76, went to University of Utah, graduated in Salt Lake City, and moved down here in '79. Shortly after, I started working for Burroughs. So I've been here, 28 years. So I've been here longer than I have been in Hong Kong. So I'm now about 38. After Burroughs, I went to Rome, which is a CBX company integrating voice and data. Then I went to digital equipment, learned all about CAD/CAM. Then I went to a digital equipment company, a spin-off called Telenova, which is a 5th generation PBX pre-ISDN packet. And shortly after that, Wang Laboratories bought Telenova, so I was transferred to Lowell away from here. And one of my biggest complaints in Lowell was that they don't have any Chinese restaurant. Yes, I know Wang Lab was started by Dr. An Wang, but he has his own chef. I ate outside in Burger King. It's not good. So I finally started my own company called ISDN System in my garage in a house in Campbell. And if you read the book, it's talk about the whole detail. I finally found somebody to lead the company, and I worked hard outside my garage, from the garage to a dinner table, and from a dinner table to a real office, and we finally sold the company to Cisco, which was very good. But the beauty doesn't end there yet. Cisco split 5 times after that, so that was beautiful. Then I followed up to be executive VP of a company called CNET Technology, which was an Ethernet company, an equipment company that used to buy chips from them. And he was a bubbly sales application engineer and then manager, and then coming to my office all the time, and we talk. We have a good friendship built up. And then he said one day, after the CNET went public, so he said one day, let's go do a kick the belief in that deal. And I was doing the same thing on the side. So together we quit. We seed funded a company called Shakti, semiconductor, and then finally sold to Vitesse for wonderful, wonderful price tag. But the beauty again hasn't ended. See, Shakti was a network processor, layer 2. The layer 7 company is digital. It's a CMOS process. Whereas Vitesse was a 5 layer 1 mixed signal company, and they under gallium arsenide process.
And
so
you're losing half the people.
Oh, sorry.
It's getting
Okay.
really techy.
So 1 + 1 = 11. That was beautiful. Lots of bucks. That's easy.
That's very clear message.
All right. Skip the technical part. Go straight to the next deal. Was SS8 networks. That was designed on a napkin in a Chinese restaurant. Typical Chinese, you know. When we talk, we write stuff on the napkin, and boom, voila, we found a deal. So we started a company called SS8 Networks, one better than SS7, and that merged with ADC, Enhanced Services Division. Then I became a VC for Crystal Venture. Then I started my own China practice, which is Diamond Tech Ventures, which is in a bulk. Then I do my own US practice for Guy Kawasaki in Garage Technology Ventures. So I'm aggressively looking for deals. I don't have too many business cards to give to everybody tonight, but it's very easy to remember. Henry@garage.com. Send me your deal, but that gets you funded. That's been the dream come true. Thank you.
That was a slight Silicon Valley effect, right? Wonderful. All right, first question. How did your childhood or your youth prepare you for working life? Now, Guy, I know that as a 9-year-old, 5-year-old, you sold Legos from door to door, and you were a bridge champion. And Eric comes from a totally other background as a young child. He was in the independence wars, Algeria, Morocco. So you have totally different kind of beginnings. How did that influence you in your lives, if at all, even now today, or how did it push you to on a certain path?
I think there's something quite educational about having to leave your country, pack everything in a couple of suitcases, and restart from scratch. Sometimes you have no choice in the matter. In my case, because of the independence war that you mentioned, we pretty much had to leave under a week's notice. And it turns out, while this is a bit scary, I'm sure this is a common story that many people who are immigrants here are familiar with. It is a very liberating experience, because if you do this early, and if you survive, you realize that you can do anything. And being an entrepreneur involves a phase where you have to leave everything behind. It could be simply your job, or the comfort of your job and your benefits package, and you have to plunge into the unknown. And so that's an experience which is very formative. I had this twice when I was young. First time when I moved to France, second time when I came here, like many of you. And I thought it prepared me well for being an entrepreneur for the rest of my life.
Is it? It's working. So clearly I agree with Eric. I think coming as immigrants is a very learning experience, because it's you realize that for you things are going to be 5x more difficult than everybody else. So you always prepare for the worst and try to be better in what you do, just to be on par with other people. But for me, from the childhood, you mentioned my little career in bridge. After I figured out basketball is not my thing.
Little career, you were the champion. He was Israeli national champion.
So little career, but I started to play bridge because I'm competitive. I like to. Yeah, okay. I was trying to hide that, but so I was looking for something I can do and compete with people and be good at. And bridge was, I felt, you know what, the fact that I'm not the strongest person around, maybe it's not going to be disadvantage. So I started to play, and I tried to get to the national team, and I got to the national team, and I played very well. But one thing I learned from, and I think everybody that ever did sport in a competitive way learn, is that you never stop believing you can win. You never say die. And the worst game possible, you're way behind, if you watch the Super Bowl this year, it was something like that. You still believe that you can get to the end and do what you're trying to do and win. And as a CEO, I'm sure Eric can relate to that. You have quarters that you think they're never going to happen, and you keep working on deals, you keep believing. The most important thing is you make your team believe that it's still doable, because if they give up, there's no chance. We had pretty tough periods in the history of our company. We felt that when I became CEO, there was a period we felt we're going to run out of business. Our business disappeared very quickly in front of our eyes, and you have to believe that you're going to find a solution, and that's what I learned from playing bridge.
Anyone else have a particularly interesting event in childhood or influence that you might not want to share it? No. Let me ask all of you really, what are you proud of? I know that Eric has founded the IVN. I know that Kamran is a philanthropic entrepreneur. You others, I don't know as much. Do you want to say a couple of words about your Israeli Venture Network? If that's what you would choose to be proud of, and maybe your wife or your family, I mean. Or both.
It's a good example. Yeah, the IVN, or Israel Venture Network, is a venture philanthropy network which I thought of starting after I finished my career as a CEO. I wanted to engage in philanthropy, and I also wanted to leverage the skill which I had built professionally, which is the skill of building networks. In the technology business, you can't accomplish anything by yourself. You've got to build alliances, networks, and you've got to work together to accomplish bigger things. So I thought about bringing together a group of like-minded, successful business executives who also wanted to engage in philanthropy, but wanted to do bigger things together than they could do on their own. So the idea of creating a network around that concept came up. And we started this at the end of 2001, which was a difficult time to think about philanthropy. We were thinking about just protecting business lives at the time. But it turned out to be a very successful project, because there were many people like me who would think of the same thing, and they needed a vehicle to engage, a vehicle where they could think about philanthropic projects, combine the resources, combine the energies and contacts, and do bigger things faster and better than they could do on their own. And so today we have a couple hundred members. They're spread geographically, and we probably invest in about $20 million a year worth of philanthropic projects, and something which is much, much bigger than I would have been able to do on my own had I just focused on it individually. So building a network is something very exhilarating, whether you do it for business or for philanthropic purposes.
What about you?
I guess the thing I'm particularly proud of is the fact that I had the privilege of being fired at a very young age. How many of you have ever been fired? Good, good. That's a very encouraging sign.
So tell them the story of how you got there and the surprise and all that in April.
Sure. This was after the success of CAE systems. In less than 3 years, we sold it for 75 million. I wasn't even 30 years old. And then Cirrus Logic, which had a market cap over 3.5 billion. I got so aggressive, thinking I can't do anything wrong, and I decided to go and start a computer company called Momento. And as a guy says, you have to have belief in yourself, and you have to push for it. So I had a lot of belief, reinforced with, I guess, these purchase orders from computer distributors worth about $100 million, and not having dealt with the distribution channel in the personal computer industry, I went back and projected to our board of directors that our first year revenue, this was that our third year of the company, would be $100 million right off the bat. I mean, that's how many purchase orders I had, and we had factory in Singapore, factory in Thailand, building this up and getting ready to ship them. Well, in reality, when we shipped them, we learned a tough thing that things did not all work, and we were too aggressive, and only did 3 million. So it was April 1st, 1992, I came to work, and it was, there was a board meeting going on. I said, wait a minute, I'm chairman, CEO, president, I don't call a board meeting. The board member says, we did, you are fired. Now,
It was April 1st.
yeah, I thought it was April Fool's Day joke. You know, when you start your own company, you never think that your board can fire you. You bring all the investors in, you select them, you go through you know, high level of process of figuring out who comes in, who doesn't, all of that. You think they all owe you something, and you can't believe that they can just fire your ass at no time and tell you, pack up and leave. So, as difficult as it was to go through that process, it was probably one of the best things and greatest things that happened to me, because one of the worst things we can ever do in our lives is believe our own PR and start to believe that we don't make mistakes, and hubris is not a healthy thing, and being brought down to earth was probably one of the greatest things. And that allowed me to take a whole year off. I was 38 years old, the big 40 was coming, and I didn't know what to do with my life. Making money had no meaning. I had lots of money from my previous companies. Being famous did not mean anything. Being my own boss didn't mean anything. You know, we are all in here becoming entrepreneurs, or want to be entrepreneurs, because we want to change the world, create a new thing. When you have done a lot of these at a young age, you just say, what else is there to be done? So I was clueless, and I took a year off and traveled all over the world and learned many different cultures, languages, learned about different religions, philosophies, and the more I studied, the more I found out that we are all the same, as this room really talks about that. And every country I visited, the people thought that they were the superior culture, the best race, the best knowledge, the biggest contribution to the history of human being. The religion was the best. Everybody else was going to go damn to hell, but they were going to be saved and go to heaven. And, every country I visited.
Sounds like you spent a lot of time in France.
Very deep Johnson.
If I should give you a few things, Chinese believe that you know, they're the only civilized people. Everybody else is barbarians. The Japanese believe that their land is land of gods and is protected by the gods. And you know what the French think? Should I ask you what Israelis think? Should I tell you what Italians think or what Iranians think? You know, everybody has this thing. So it's just amazing how each one of us, when we are in an isolated situation, we think that we have been exclusively selected by God to be her quarterback, and we get directly all the signals from God. And reality is we are all the same, and we all have the same aspirations, the same problems, the same issues. So the idea that came up through, that really created a new religion for me, was rather than pigeonholing myself with all these national patriotic mumbo-jumbo or a lot of positioning myself in one particular religion or another, regardless of what my upbringing was, why not really go and do three things. One was develop new technologies, because that's what I like to do, that bring people closer together. So all of my follow-up companies had something to do with communications or mobility, because those are the things that allow people to come together. Second thing was to do companies use business as a way to bring the people to work with each other from different countries. So all of my companies from that point on are global companies and have relationships and subsidiaries in many different places. And third one was, you know, don't be greedy. You make a few $1,000,000, buy a nice home, buy 1 or 2 nice cars, but why do you need anything else? And just give the rest of it away. So I haven't seen a dime of my money from since then. All of the money goes to our global foundation and We have activities in 17 countries. And I've never had to worry about the stock market going up or down or whatever, any of that. We still live on the same 4-bedroom home that we bought 20 years ago. So life became very easy. So that was the greatest thing that happened to me, was to get fired.
Okay, Guy, what about you? What are you the most proud of? I'm going to have everyone answer that one.
I'm the wrong person. I still think about what I'm going to do next. I'm trying not to get too proud at anything, because you get addicted to your own success and you think you already accomplished things. So,
well, Angelika is the one who said to me, you have to be careful you don't drink your own Kool-Aid.
Yeah, absolutely.
You said that?
You know, I saw many successful people here, and some of them are fabulous. And you know, what Eric did in IBM, what he's doing in IBM is unbelievable. It's the best foundation as far as the way he ran it and the group is running it. It's amazing. But I see people that are successful. All successful people are lucky. They start to believe that they cannot go wrong, that they're smarter, they're better, they get more than one voice in every election, and it's bad, and those people normally are unbearable. They're not in the room. But, so I'm trying not to get proud at anything. I think there's still a lot for me to do.
Well, there's one funny story. Tell people what you did when you came and you rented your first place.
Oh, you mean that I have to say that?
The bargaining.
So, you know, I come from Israel. It's part of the Middle East, although we are the only country in the Middle East that don't have any oil. We drill. So we try to drill not in a straight line. We get in trouble, but so we have to figure out what to do, and part of it is that we're negotiating all the time. We try to figure out better terms, because we can. It's not easy. So we also very direct, as some of you know us. And, a little bit, and that's of course something I had to learn here, because people used to be offended when I told them they're screwing up and what they say is stupid and things like that. Anyway, but and then the other thing is we're a very, very, very good listener, and especially when we speak. So I bought all of that here, and the first thing I wanted to rent an apartment because hotel was expensive. So I go with my overconfident, you know, attitude and talk to the apartment complex, and they said we have this, you know, 1 bedroom and it's X price, I don't remember what it was, $750 a month, and I says, okay, $530. And they said, no, we don't do that like that. The price is the price. And I said, ah, come on. $540 and I'm paying cash. And they were about to show me the door, but I thought that's part of, I didn't understand the problem. Ended up paying exactly the price they want, but I got him to put one more mirror into this apartment. And they probably thought they just got the most strange person out of it.
That's great. See, those are the gems that I got with everyone. Samba, what about you? You're the most proud of? And try and beat that one.
You know, the thing I have to mention is Israelis and Indians have very similar personality traits. And, you know, and I'll tell you, to go back to what Kamran said, when you visit countries, Indians, we believe we can pontificate better than anybody else. And it's a free world and everybody's entitled to my opinions too. So anyway, the key, the stuff, I'm still young enough that I'm not quite involved in the philanthropic stuff. I'm thinking about it. But my first company, the biggest thing I think I can look back and left an impact is very simply Ethernet technology that you're all using today. When you plug your computer in, you don't think about it, there's a little light which pops up. It's called a link light. And you also negotiate the speed for the link. The technology has now got to a point where it started out at 10 megabit, it became 10 times faster, 100 megabit, then it became gigabit and so on. So one of the things I did, thanks to a startup I ran into, was come up with a scheme to negotiate the link speed automatically. So today when you use it, I came up with that scheme in 1989, So it automatically figures out what the other side is, you handshake, and you figure out what the speed is, and you can actually communicate simultaneously, from half duplex to full duplex. And I came up with that by breaking the standard, okay, when we started out. So people in my company, when I proposed it, they said, you're nuts, this is not going to work, this will never get adopted. And so the lessons I learned was, you break the rules first to make the progress, then you have to figure out how to put it back and coexist. And let me tell you, it was very, very hard. And the lessons learned was interesting, because when you go walk to another engineer and tell them, this is something you can do, you get shot down in flames. And there's a lot of contentious debates, and companies get into positions. So interestingly enough, that the whole process from '89, it took till 1995 to work through the standards body. So I believe, I can look back and say I made some serious contributions. We ended up having to work with other companies like National Semiconductor, who had a different way of doing things. Finally, we all met and figured out a common way to do these things. So that's something I really, really think was a great learning experience for me, and I can look back. I figured out how to make compromises, and believe me, it was very, very hard for me to do. And the other part of it was the first startup, which we ended up doing with Henry. We had a fantastic idea to go back to
the napkin one.
The napkin one was interesting. Literally, we started the company name was spelled with X, so Shakti was spelled XAQTI, and it was literally an acronym for what we did. It stood for switching acceleration with queuing and transport interface. It's technology jargon, but really, it pretty much put everything we did as a company in the name, and Shakti means power. And I came up with this on a napkin when we were sitting down chatting in my dining room with the other partner who was not here, who was the CTO of the company. So Shakti, in the early days when we went to look for money, literally every single VC rejected us and shot us down in flames. So it went from, you guys are too early in the game for a chip startup, to 2 months later, after Andy Bechtolsheim's company got sold, Granite Systems, he didn't even have a product. Cisco went and bought him for $230 million or something, and Andy can do that because he was already a very successful guy. And the next VC we went and talked to, this is barely 2 months. They sat there and said, listened to us and said, you know what, Henry, Samba, you guys are too late. So I said, what's wrong with this picture, So 2 months ago, we were too early in the game. 2 months later, so we came to the conclusion, it's a bunch of, hogwash. So what you need to do is, if you have a dream and a passion, you can't give up, and you got to keep knocking on doors till you find somebody who believes in it, who's looking for investing in an opportunity like you do, right? Then you find a partnership, right? So that's the story I got. So it was not giving up, and finally getting incredibly lucky with the timing, so we had a good exit.
Thank you, Samba. After being here for 28 years and starting 5 companies in the Valley, the most important thing that I bring home every night is not the companies that I've started, the money I earn, or something like that. It's the process. In the process, I earn a great friend, a true friend like Samba. Seriously. I mean, you can imagine Chinese Indian. Hey, come on, IC, not integrated. Indian. Really. Good feeling to it.
Or you can call it CC.
If you have the passion, something in your mind that you want to do, and you have the enthusiasm to chase after it, and you can take rejection, like 20 VC turned me down first on Sand Hill before I went to seek help from another guy to say, please be the CEO, I can't do it. Because they don't pay CEO in training. If you have not had P&L experience before, it will be very difficult to bet money on you today. So it's a humbling experience. So if you have a dream, follow it, chase after it, go do it, build your team. hopefully there are people that used to work with you or working with you or in a group like here. And just go do it. I think that will be the happiest thing in the journey in the Valley. It's not about the money. It's not about how many companies you started. It's about people. And at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, I think got great buddies, good friendship over here. Angelika. What else?
I mean, you're absolutely right. If you look at the room and how many of us know each other, where we're all from different, I mean, a lot of my clients, my friends, people at Silicon French, Ali, I mean, it's incredible who all know that just work. Because Ilmgat, you know, Laurence and I have known each other. Everyone here knows everyone. And everyone here has worked together. And of course, how did I get to all the people? Well, I was really lucky because I knew all the French from the Executive Club working with Ale. And I had met Benhamou and Jean-Louis Gasset, and I said, would you talk to me? And they immediately did, and all the other French did, including Marilyn Delvaux-Delphis, who's in the back there. They dropped everything, talked to me, sent me back the transcribed interviews. I thought, this is a piece of cake. I have 10, I have about 40 more to go. I mean, I'll be done in 2 months. Talk about the French were the best of all the groups of getting everything back and transcribed. The only one who beat that was the president of Stanford University, John Hennessy. I got 19.5 minutes with him. You should see his schedule. That was incredible that I even got that in 2 days. I sent him the transcription in 2 days. He sent me back his interview the way I published it. It was unbelievable. He had corrected, done, put in commas, periods, paragraphs. It was unbelievable. Maybe that's American, I don't know. But let me ask you maybe things more for entrepreneurs here. And that's also, by the way, that's also in the book. And one thing I have to say, sadly, I had 150,000 words in the book. And Ale was one of the interviewees. And I had to boil it down to 78,000 words from 150,000. So I hired an editor who did it. Thank God. I couldn't cut these pearls of wisdom from all people like this, from Marilyn. I mean, how would I have done that? So,
but there will be a second book, possibly.
Oh yeah, very funny. Never again. All right. What things should leaders do? What are good strategies? And Kamran has a great story. The Japan one. The chip.
Oh, okay.
But she has much better memory. And when you get to be my age, there are so many stories and so many lies you have said, you can't remember it. I guess that the thing that is really important when you are creating a successful organization is to really practice what you preach. It's so important. And at Neomagic, this was a chip company. We were developing chips for laptop computers, the first generation of laptops. We owned 67% market share of all of them. So our revenues, first year was 41 million, second year was 125, third year was 240 million. We just went through the roof. The big accounts that we were chasing, we had Sony account, we had Dell account, all the new generation of small laptops. The big account we wanted to have was IBM. IBM had been designing a smaller version of their products called ThinkPad, and at that time it was a novel product and very thin, and we really wanted this. And it was about $60–70 million a year account for us. But as any of you who have dealt with IBM, you don't go with the startup and say, we have a chip and trust us, we won't make any mistakes, we deliver everything on time, everything would be great. Those things don't work. They're very conservative. They need to really see how everything is. And if you think that is bad, you should deal with IBM Japan in your motto, which has all the process-oriented and the delays associated with comprehensive review of everything that Japanese, great Japanese corporations are proud to add to the process. And so we were working really hard to get this account, and one day we had our new chip, new samples ready. Was so excited. I went to the lab and I asked the engineers, and I said that, how is everything? So it's great. And I was talking to one of the technical application engineers, and I said, so when are we giving this to IBM? They're waiting for it. He says, yeah, I told them that we'll give it to them on Monday. And I said, so you're leaving tomorrow? This was on Friday. And they said, no, you know, this weekend I've got a few commitments and family issues and this and that, and I will leave Monday and I will give it to them on Wednesday. You know, what's a couple day difference? Well, you know, again, having dealt with IBM Japan before, or many Japanese companies, they really measure what you do and how well you deliver on every small thing. And I, you know, understood, I empathized with him. He had family obligations for the weekend. You don't want to go and ruin the poor guy's family and have his wife divorce him or whatever. So I carefully looked where he was leaving the package on his desk. And then I went and I told my assistant to book me a flight to Japan. So next Saturday, I went to the company, picked up those chips that were supposed to be delivered, and I took the flight Saturday noon, arrived there Sunday night, and Monday morning I announced, unannounced, I walked into IBM Yamato, and you know, Japanese are very, very much title conscious and everything, and the moment the receptionist saw my name and my title, goes and says, the president of general manager of IBM Yamato, that the big boss has come and is delivering this, and he gets nervous. This wasn't part of the plan or whatever, so they're all rushing around like, what is happening and all of that. So I said, oh, nothing, our engineer was busy, he couldn't deliver something. I didn't want us to miss on our commitment, so I couldn't find anybody else. I didn't want to, so I picked up the chip and I came there, and I just want you to know, anytime you give us orders, it will be on time. I will look into that. And lo and behold, a couple months later, they started to give us exclusive. All the 97% of IBM ThinkPads all had our chips, and that's how it just went through the thing. And I took the flight back Monday afternoon in Tokyo, and you know, you gain 1 day back, so I arrived here Monday morning, and I went to the office, and I noticed the poor engineer is feverishly looking for where the chips are, because he had to take the noon flight. He thought to go to Japan, and I said, no, I don't want to inconvenience you. You know, when the customer needs, we need to deliver, so it wasn't convenient for you. I did that. After that, in the company, I never ever had to ask anybody about commitment or whatever. They knew if they don't do it, I'm going to do it. I never ever gave them a lecture. I never thought, but it just went around the whole company. Everybody said, hey, you better do this.
Eli, how about you, coming from a different perspective, what would you say is something really, really important to do as a leader of a company?
Well, of course, there are many different successful leadership strategies available. Everyone makes his own leadership strategy and leadership style. But there's a couple of things which I think apply to everyone. And the first has emerged from the comments of all of you here, which is the importance of believing in yourself when no one else will. And that's this is a common trait. I don't know of any successful leader who has not developed this trait. And it's particularly important when everyone figures out different ways of telling you no, as Henry and Samba have experienced before. The best illustration of this, I have this picture of this Indiana Jones movie when he has to, I forget which one it is, maybe it's Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. At some point he has to go through a cave, and he comes out on the other side, and he's just, and the other side is a hole giving on a very steep cliff. And he's about, and he doesn't know where to go. And at that time, this is the time when you have to put your foot down, believe in yourself, and then there's a ledge right there that you didn't see. He manages to get across. So it's in these times when you're basically about to fall off a cliff that you have to dig deep inside and figure out whether you have enough faith in yourself to be able to carry through your organization, your project, your vision. There's something else which I think is essential strategy, which is particularly in the high-tech business. You can never make compromises on the people that you bring to your team. There's a saying in Silicon Valley that A people recruit A people and B people recruit C people. And I think it's a good way of capturing how excellence attracts excellence. And when you start making compromises for the sake of expediency, you hire the second or third best person to the team because they happen to be there and you don't have the energy to go recruit harder. This is when you start going downhill. So I believe nurturing a culture of excellence is something that holds you in good stead, particularly when you have a hard time, when you have hard economic times, when you have a setback. This is when the quality of the people that you recruit over the years comes through, and this is when excellence shines. And you build this one person at a time. It requires a mindset of always hiring the best people you can, and never compromising on quality standards. And I'm sure that whether we made this explicit or not in our careers, we've all adopted that. Success is not due to one person, but to a team. And if you have not upheld the quality of the team, then you can't break through the way you expect.
And Guy said something really interesting, where he said to me, "Pick the right decision, not be right." Now, how hard is that for an Israeli?
I think in life you make trade-offs and you decide what to do. And in many cases, there is a decision that will make you the most popular, that everybody said that's the right decision. People say if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you made the right decision. And I think it's a lot more important to actually be right and pick up the things that you feel in your gut going to make the organization, whatever you do, be successful. And in many cases, there is a conflict. And you know, it's life is about going what you think going to be successful and believe in that, as we said. Eric and Kamran covered two most important things that I believe in. Is believe in yourself and hands-on management. If something needs to be done, you do it yourself. If it's somebody that's difficult to fire, you go and fire them yourself. If you need to do, if somebody wants to do something and it's nobody jumped to call the customer, you call the customer. You fly to see the customer. It's a great story. The people, at the end of the day, people is everything. In the high tech, you know, we don't have. You don't have field that is better than the competition, the playing field. So at the end of the day, it's the people you hire and the people that you surround yourself. If they're better than the competition, you're going to be more successful. That's simple. And then the other thing is team spirit. If you ask me to add one more advice that maybe nobody else will say, well, develop a sense of humor. I think you get the team spirit. Things are bad, laugh at it, keep going, and be focused on what you're trying to get to be done. I think there is also, everybody has certain level of energy. I mean, you know, some people have more or less. You want to have people with a lot of energy around you. Try to get the negative energy out, the political, the fighting, you know, who's fault at something. Build positive energy. How do we advance the company? Yeah, we screwed up last project. How do we do the next project better? It's really not about spending a lot. Everybody who works in a company know how negative energy can get the entire company down.
But isn't that easier in Silicon Valley and in America? Coming from Europe, where there's so often so much negativity, not to mention Germany and France. What is so refreshing about here is this, everyone is striving to be positive, and I think that's something we do learn from Americans, is the optimism, the being positive, looking forward to solutions, and not sticking in the, oh, you did, and how could you?
There's a lot of
perspective of us. I learned so much listening to you about us.
There's a lot of optimism here, especially in Silicon Valley, but in the US for sure. There's a lot of openness, which is great, certainly for immigrants. There's a lot of positive thinking. I agree with the science. I think it's one of the things that make the US great, and certainly something you want to leverage and use. And at the end of the day, the people you're competing with, thinking about the same problems, everybody facing the same challenges. If you enjoy what you're doing, you have the right people around you, you go with your guts and data, and you never stop believing that you can make it happen. Like those two gentlemen got enough to know. You get things done. You need to be lucky too, but I don't know how to subscribe that, but that has to be part of the equation for sure.
I guess I pretty much agree with everything that has been said from a leadership perspective. You can't ask your team to do things that you're not willing to do yourself. That is very, very key. Second part is, integrity. And if you don't make promises or commitments to your team that you're not going to be able to keep. That's the biggest thing which gets you in trouble. So maintain pretty open communications, and you have to maintain integrity. And the other part of it is team building takes a lot of effort, finding the right people to come into the team. So you have to be quite patient, and it takes a lot of energy, by the way, to hire. And the other counterpart to that is if you do find people who are not team players, better fire them very, very quickly. They're not just the hard way. There's a tendency to procrastinate and not take out what I call disruptive influences. Because once you start addressing it, there's a tendency for people to come back and say, oh, this person is very critical, the whole thing's going to fall apart. One of the lessons I learned is if you actually take out that person, the first, there's a little bit of consternation and people get concerned. Then you find a couple of days later, it's like this thing didn't happen, and everything closes back, the negative energy disappears, it actually builds forward momentum quite rapidly. So I learned the hard way that you hire slowly, fire quickly. So it's very, very key.
Henry, how about you? Let's change the equations. What are the awful things that you should not do as a leader?
Talk to yourself.
Not to say that you ever did them.
I was going to say, the communication is very important. So here, the worst thing that a leader could do is to put everything onto himself and think that he's the chief. I think the most important thing is to share, communicate with people, and I can speak for Chinese because I'm Chinese. Many Chinese leaders believe that they are one king on top of a million people under, and there's no 5-layer of hierarchy, or one, like HP Way is one manager, 5 subordinates, right, and then 5, all the way. That's the way you spread.
It still is, or is that the way it was? Have they changed?
Well, there are evolutions. Okay.
Nice.
I'm talking. But I think the ability to communicate to your people, avoid being the big cheese, the big boss, I still put my legs on the table because I feel good about it. But it's not for you to see, behind closed door. I think better when I'm like this, But communication is key, okay? Only one word, communications.
I remember Marilyn pointing out to me that you think that one of the most important skills is the listening, or one of the detrimental ones is not listening well. Right?
Yes, I believe that.
Did something from the gallery here too?
Excuse me. Well, I agree with everything which was said, of course. I would add that for me, a leader is somebody who takes the responsibility for what is wrong and empowers people for everything which is right. Gives the credit to people, other people.
Angelika, could I say something?
No, you should. There are 5 microphones. I don't know why we're passing them all the time.
One thing that Henry said, and working with Samba and a Chinese person and an Indian person working with each other, there is a lot of wisdom on that. Many times, as Angelika said, you start the project, it's much easier to go with the people who come from the same part of the world that you come from and bond with them, and there is some understanding and trust and credibility. It's great to get started like that with the first 1 or 2 or 3. You want to have some of that, but very quickly I would advise you that see yourselves as citizens of the world and go and work and hire people from all these other countries, because if you are successful and as you start to grow, you need to hire a lot of people. And if the labor pool is comprised of the type of people who are in this room, you don't want to be pigeonholed as, oh, these are a group of just Iranian people who are just doing something together and they speak Farsi between themselves and we don't know what the hell they're talking and all of this, and therefore we don't want to join them. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to make sure you live in America, English is the official language for your company. Never ever talk your local language in front of the people when you are private on the phone.